In this short video, we're going to add multiple users to a base station in Webex Calling. So first thing is I've already added my calling numbers here. So I've added a few numbers, and now we're going to add a base station. So we're going to click Add Device. We're going to select Existing User. We're going to select Charles, and I click Next. And if you see this, that means you've done something wrong, right? Because we actually need to add the MAC address of the base station. So what we're going to do is exit out of this, go to the user, Charles Holland, and we are going to click Edit. We are going to select Webex Calling, Enterprise, click Next, and we will assign a phone number to this user. Okay, now we click Finish. So services saved successfully. So now we will go back to devices, add device, existing user, Charles Holland, next, and now I'm going to select the device. And we're going to select the Cisco DECT 210 base. And now we enter the MAC address. If you do not know the MAC address of the base station, there are three ways to find it. First way is on the outside of the unopened box. You'll see the MAC address there. The second way is on the back of the base station. So if you turn it around where the Ethernet port is, you will see it listed there. And then the last way is to sort of dynamically discover it and then log into the IP address. So the way that you would do that is you would take a 6825, you go to the menu, and then you select star 47 star, and then that will scan the environment and report the IP addresses. So in this particular case, let's say that you go ahead and plug the base station in, you then scan for it, you then find the IP address, and then you would just do HTTP :// IP address, and then you would find something like this. And then so you can see here is my MAC address. And so I'm going to go ahead and just copy that and then paste it into here. And then we go ahead and click Save. And now the base station has been successfully added. So let's go ahead and refresh this. We'll go back to devices, and now we can actually see the base station is here, and we also can see that it belongs to Charles Holland. So if I click on this, we can actually see there's some additional information here. And what I want to do is actually click Manage. And here we can see some additional information. So if I click on User Assignments, we can see the actual extension from Charles Holland is now assigned to it. Let's go back to our base station. Our next step is to register the base station to Webex Calling. And there are two methods to provision the base station. The first is dynamic. You would do a factory reset on the base station after you have added it to Webex Calling, and then it will automatically register. And the second is manual. You would do this if you're having a issue getting dynamic to work or if you're running old firmware. And the way we would do manual registration is by specifying this URL. So in North America, it is cisco.sipflash.com. So let's go ahead and add that. So under management, we have a configuration server address, and we're going to specify that. And then we click save. So at this point, the base station will reboot and essentially phone home and grab its configuration from Webex Calling. So you will know that it is successful when you can no longer reach it over HTTP and you have to use HTTPS. So that means that it's actually sort of locked down and secured. So you can see now that I have actually entered HTTPS and then the IP address of the base station, and I get this message, which is basically that I need to go to HTTPS. So then I get this pop-up. And if I try to do admin, it's not going to work, right? So what I need to do is actually take the username of user, and then the password must be the MAC address in all lowercase. So I'm going to copy and paste the MAC address from the control hub, and I'm going to change it to lowercase, and we will paste that here, and then my login is just user, and I click sign in. So now we're logged into the base station, and at this point it is registered to Webex Calling. Now we will associate handsets to the base station, and there are two ways to do this. The first way is dynamic, and the second way is manual. So the IPEI is the means by which the base station identifies each respective handset. And if I have the handset in my hand, I can use the activation code of 5800 in this example in order to register my handset to the base station dynamically. So let's go ahead and do that. So on the actual handset, I would go to connectivity, I would go to register, I would choose empty slot, and then I would enter the access code 5800, and then I click OK. And then on the actual device, it'll say registration in progress. And now it has registered. So it might take a minute. And now that it has registered, I'll just refresh this page. And we can see now that the IPEI shows. So this is a sign of health, and it is associated to the end user of Charles Holland. And I know this because the display name on the handset says 0195. And we can repeat this process for additional handsets. And now let's take a look at how we would go about registering the handset to the actual base station manually in the event that I'm running old firmware or I'm just having some issue with dynamic registration. So now we're going to demonstrate manual pairing of the 6825 to the actual base station. So I'm going to click on this and change this to be the IPEI of my actual device. And so again, I go into the settings, status, scroll down to the IPEI. It's also listed on the box of the 6825. So let's go ahead and enter that 03299001E3. So now that I've done that, and I'm also going to change the AC to 0000. This is just the pin code that you would enter on the actual 6825. To make it easier, I'm just going to do all zeros, and then I'm going to click save. And now on the actual 6825, I'm going to go to settings, connectivity. I'm going to do register. I'm going to select an empty slot, and then I'm going to select the access code 0000 and then click OK. And at that point, it'll register. And I see that it has successfully registered, and I can see a 4-digit directory number of 0195. So we can see our extension info is correct. Now let's go ahead and add another device. So how do we do that? We go back to Control Hub, and we're going to add another user. So we're going to go to Users. We want the user to be Stefan. So I'm going to scroll down to Stefan. I am going to click Edit. We're going to select Webex Calling Enterprise. I click Next. We want to add another phone number from our list, and then we click Finish. So at this point, we want to go to Manage the actual base station. So I want to actually click cancel. We actually want to go to devices. Here is our 210 base station. We want to do actions and we want to assign lines. And here we want to assign a new line and we want it to give it to Stefan Mock. So I click finish. So now we are done with this task. And now I need to go back to the portal where we have extensions. And I'm going to need to actually reboot this device in order for it to pick up its new configuration. So I have rebooted the device. I'm going to type in username and password. And now there is my new device. So I'm going to click on this and then enter the IPEI of the new handset that I am provisioning. So that will be 03299001EE. And we'll go ahead and choose save. So I'm going to change my access code to 0000 to make it simple. I choose save. And in the phone, I do register, enter access code 0000, click OK, and it'll just take a moment. And now it says registered on my handset 0196. So now everything should be okay. Let me refresh this page. We can now see that each of these dots are green. The terminal state is present. You can actually see the firmware version, and you can actually see that it's going to try to upgrade the firmware. So that'll just happen sort of offline. The devices are still usable. And so that's the overview of provisioning multiple users using the Webex Control Hub, as well as logging into the base station. Thank you.